Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Open with a chant. Om Dyo Shanti Antariksham Shanti Prithvi Shanti Apa Shanti Oshadaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishvedeva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantireti Om Shanti 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 Om. May there be peace in heaven, in the sky, on the earth, in the water, in plants, in trees, in the gods, in Brahman. May there be peace in all. May that peace, real peace, be ours. Today's topic is Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga, Part 5. It's the last installment, A Radical Truth. But before we begin, let's open with a guided meditation. So I can see everyone shifting, getting in place, feet firmly planted on the ground and spine straight, and your hands loosely held in your lap as Swami Vivekananda behind me. This opening pratyahara is one that Vivekananda himself gave in his Raja Yoga classes. It will be followed by an impersonal meditation on consciousness. So let's begin by taking in 3 deep breaths, breathing in deeply and exhaling completely. Picture the mind as a calm lake stretched before you. Let the mind drift. See how thoughts come and go as bubbles rising and breaking on the surface, becoming ripples that are ever widening circles. Make no effort to control your thoughts, but watch them. Follow them in imagination as they rise, break, and float away. I am not the mind. I see that I am thinking. I am watching my mind act. Hold fast to the idea. I am the witness, watching my mind drift. The mind is not I. Watch the mind as a thing entirely apart from yourself. Identify yourself with God, never with the mind or matter. Be the witness. Now, during your in-breath, draw your awareness in upon itself, illuminating its own nature. Breathe out, releasing your awareness, letting go of all thoughts and objects of the mind. Breathe in, drawing your awareness in upon itself, illuminating its own nature. Breathe out, releasing your awareness, letting go of all thoughts and objects of the mind. Breathe in, drawing your awareness in upon itself, illuminating its own nature. Breathe out, releasing your awareness, letting go of all thoughts and objects of the mind. As you invert your awareness on the in-breath, there is no point at which you can detect the real subject. And when you release your awareness during the out-breath, you let go of all contents of the mind, so there is no object to latch onto. Breathe in, drawing your awareness in upon itself, illuminating its own nature. Breathe out, releasing your awareness, letting go of all thoughts and objects of the mind. Breathe in, drawing your awareness in upon itself, illuminating its own nature. Breathe out, releasing your awareness, letting go of all thoughts and objects of the mind. Breathe in, drawing your awareness in upon the felt direction of the unseen seer, watching the contents of the mind. Breathe out, releasing your awareness, letting go of all thoughts and objects of the mind. Breathe in, drawing your awareness in upon the felt direction of the unseen seer, watching the contents of the mind. Breathe out, releasing your awareness, letting go of all thoughts and objects of the mind. Throughout the whole course of each in-breath and out-breath, gently now try to sustain the awareness of awareness. The awareness of awareness. The awareness of awareness. The awareness of awareness. As your mind calms, your breathing will become more and more subtle. And when this happens, disengage your awareness from the breath and rest on the ongoing flow of awareness of awareness. The ongoing flow of awareness of awareness. On occasion, ask yourself, what is the consciousness that is concentrating? Steadily focus your attention and then raise this question again. What is the consciousness that is concentrating? Whenever you are distracted by a noise or some other sensations from your environment, let that serve as a reminder to bring your wandering mind back to the present moment. Now now, as we rise from our meditation, continue to recognize all appearances for what they are. Appearances. Don't objectify anything outside, and don't subjectify anything inside. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. So, Jnana Yoga, a radical truth. There have been stages in Hindu philosophical thought. The first, Vivekananda explained. Here is the universe, and this universe is created by a certain being. Everything that is in this universe has been created by him. At this earliest stage, early Hindu philosophers claimed this creation came out of nothingness at the will of God. Then the second evolving stage of philosophical thought, Vivekananda explained. Along with that, he said, at a later stage comes the idea of a soul, that there is this body and something inside this body, which is not the body. This is the most primitive idea of religion that we know. In the next stage, the creation theory is questioned. Vivekananda goes on. How can existence be produced out of non-existence? If this universe is existent, it must have come out of something, because it was very easy to see that nothing comes out of nothing anywhere. So all things are made from pre-existing materials. The whole of religion is a search for that pre-existing material. Now, one solution of Hindu school of philosophy that it came up with, Vivekananda reveals to us. Nature, God, and soul are eternal existences, as if three lines are running parallel eternally, of which nature and soul comprise what they call the dependent, and God, the independent reality. Every soul, like every particle of matter, is perfectly dependent on the will of God. Now we come to the soul. No matter how divergent these various Indian philosophies are, they all accepted the Sankhya psychology, including Vedanta. Only the psychology part, not the philosophy. Perception is the transmission of vibrations from external sense organs to the internal brain centers, to the mind, then to the higher mind, the buddhi, that part of your mind that was watching your lower mind, that was the buddhi, to a unifying human principle of the human soul. The problem is not one of our body-related centers of perception that controls the others, because without a unifying agent, we cannot perceive. Vivekananda tells us we must have something upon which the sensations will be reflected to form a complete whole. Until there is that something, I cannot have any idea of you or a picture or anything else. So we may see, hear, and touch something, but we can't process the whole perception because all our body's centers are different and do not act in connection with each other. This body is insentient, gross matter, and the sense organs, external and internal, are subtle matter. The body is a receptacle of forces, gross and fine. The gross material body originates from gross forces acting on fine particles. But where from do fine forces within this fine body originate? From akasha, which is a substance that's omnipresent and interpenetrating, and prana, the force, the power that changes akasha into various forms, omnipresent and interpenetrating. Vivekananda explains, the gross body is the instrument made out of akasha for the manifestation of prana in gross forms, as muscular motion or walking, sitting, talking, and so on, and so on. That fine body is also made of akasha, a very fine form of akasha, for the manifestation of the same prana in the finer form of thought. Beyond that is this fine body, and beyond that is the jiva, the real man. Now, there are various schools of thought that analyze the nature of the jiva. The dualists of the Sankhya school claim that the jiva is eternal, just as the Purusha is eternal. And watch how these systems within the Hindu philosophy have evolved. The dualists claim that nature is also eternal, but its components, prana and akasha, are eternally changing. The jiva, they claim, is unmanufactured from a combination of akasha and prana. Thus, it cannot be destroyed. So that indweller, that jiva. And the body is a compound of akasha and prana and will be destroyed. Swami Vivekananda tells us that Sankhya claims the whole of nature, comprising millions and millions of souls, is under the will of God. God is all-pervading, omniscient, formless, and he is working through nature day and night. The whole of it is under his control. He is the eternal ruler. This is Sankhya. But if God created the universe, why must we suffer? We naturally ask. We further ask, due to karma? Jiva's true nature is pure, but ignorance covers it, and thus it reincarnates until finally it reaches perfection and goes to Brahmaloka. Now, the qualified non-dualists claim that God is both the efficient and material cause of this universe. According to Vishishta Dvaita, God is seen as the ultimate reality, Brahman, while also being the source of the universe's existence. He projects the universe outside of himself, out of himself. Soul and nature form the body of God. But we ask, how can God, who is pure, become inert things, such as a pig and a murderer? So Vivekananda explains this position of the qualified non-dualist. He says, just as I am a soul and have a body, and in a sense, the body is not different from me, yet I, the real I, in fact, am not the body. For instance, I say, I am a child, a young man, or an old man, but my soul has not changed. It remains the same. He goes on. Similarly, the whole universe, comprising all nature and an infinite number of souls, is, as it were, the infinite body of God. He is interpenetrating the whole of it. He alone is unchangeable, but nature changes and the soul changes. He is unaffected by changes in nature and soul. In what way does nature change? In its forms. It takes fresh forms. But the soul cannot change that way. The soul contracts and expands in knowledge. Now we come to the Vedanta non-dualists. This is our path. This is our philosophy. And that is that God is the efficient and material cause of the universe. God has become the whole universe. Now, non-dualists disagree with dualists and qualified non-dualists who claim, first, God is the soul, second, the universe is the body of God, and third, the body is changing. If God is the material cause of this universe, Vivekananda tells us, the effect is nothing but the cause in another form. The effect is nothing but the cause in another form. Wherever you see an effect, it is the cause reproduced. If the universe is the effect and God the cause, it, the universe, must be the reproduction of God. Thus, he explains, the non-dualists say that it is God himself who has become this universe. Now the questions come. How can pure being become this universe? Second, and if so, he has become changeful, part of nature, and thus is born and dies. And third, how does that one God become divided and turn into millions of jivas? The non-dualist answers, according to Vivekananda, this universe does not exist at all. It is all illusion. The whole of this universe, all this infinite number of souls coming up and going down, are all dreams. He goes on. There is no jiva at all. How can there be many? It is the one infinity. As the one sun reflected on various pieces of water appears to be many, and millions of globules of water reflect so many millions of suns, and in each globule will be a perfect image of the sun. Yet there is only one sun. So are all these jivas but reflections in different minds. God is being reflected in all these different jivas. That means you and me. He goes on, but a dream cannot be without a reality. And that reality is that one infinite existence. You, as body, mind, or soul, are a dream. But what you really are is existence, knowledge, bliss. So what does this mean? This whole universe is my body. All bodies are mine. We cannot get beyond this idea of the absolute. It is a radical truth. We're not just a part, but the whole of the universal reality. We are the whole of God. Vivekananda goes on. So long as the dream that you are a body exists, you are bound to see yourself as being born and dying. But as soon as that dream vanishes, so will the dream vanish that you are being born and dying. And so will the other dream that there is a universe that will vanish. That very thing which we now see as a universe will appear to us as God, absolute. And that very God, who has so long been external, will appear to be internal, as our own self. Now, this is not just a statement. This is an actual realization, something that has been realized by so many evolved souls. So let us try to deep dive to understand this non-dual realization. Let's try to pick it apart. To summarize, Vivekananda says the whole universe, comprising all nature and an infinite number of souls, is, as it were, the infinite body of God. He, Brahman, is interpenetrating the whole of it. But Mary Hale, who was one of the Hales, the Hale family was very dear to Swami Vivekananda. They really rescued him when he first came to Chicago and didn't know anything about American lifestyle. And they took him into their home, and he made friends with the whole family, including Mary Hale, who he was very, very close to. She wrote to him in a light-hearted verse. It goes, "The lines you sent to your sisters four," there were four sisters, "be sure they'll cherish evermore, for you have made them clearly see the one main truth, that all is He." And then Vivekananda replies, "So Mary Hale, allow me tell, you mar my doctrines, wronging, balking. I never taught such queer thought, that all was God, unmeaning talking. But this I say, remember, pray, that God is true, all else is nothing. This world's a dream, though true it seem, and only truth is He, the living. The real me is none but He, and never, never matter changing." So what does Vivekananda mean in this rhyme that has such a depth? First, Vivekananda was speaking to Mary Hale's Christian Science background, which celebrates this universe as God. That first we must negate before we can see all as Brahman. The jnani sees reality within the form and thereby tries to negate the form, whereas the vijnani sees all forms as Brahman. No form needs to be negated. These are two different levels of reality. But in order to see that the gold bracelet is nothing but gold, and the form was never real to begin with, we must first realize the gold as gold. In other words, samadhi is absolutely essential. We cannot get through this truth by just reasoning on our laurels. We have to realize the truth. In the Gita, verse 10:42, Sri Krishna reminds Arjuna, "Know only that I exist, and that one atom of myself sustains the universe." He reminds Arjuna we must learn to see the one reality everywhere by going beyond the outer forms and expressions. For example, Vivekananda gives this: we must first realize, as he did in his spiritual life, all is not, God is. All is not. Everything is changing, dying. All is not, God is. And later, after his sadhana had matured, he reached an even higher spiritual insight that God is all. These are two levels of reality. The first, jnana, and the next, vijnana. These two apparently contradictory truths are actually two stages of spiritual practice and realization. In the path of knowledge, the aspirants are first taught neti neti, not this, not that. The self is neither this nor that, the true self. And to strengthen their conviction of ephemeral nature of this world, once convinced, they're then qualified to ascend the ladder to self-realization, to assimilate an even higher truth. Iti, iti, it is this, it is this. All this is Brahman. So why this method? Swami Pravrajika, in his Spiritual Heritage of India, explains, without the systematic practice of discrimination and rigorous renunciation, a lasting conviction does not come, nor does higher knowledge. So all these spiritual practices that our guru tells us we must undergo are to build the strength within ourselves to understand the subtlety of these truths and how to incorporate them into our lives. So all these practices are the building blocks, are building our muscles of discrimination and spiritual insight so that we can transcend. Now, Sri Ramakrishna explains how these two levels of realization are reconciled. He says in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the jnani gives up his identification with worldly things, discriminating not this, not this. Only then can he realize Brahman. It is like reaching the roof of the house by leaving the steps behind, one by one. But the vijnani, who is more intimately acquainted with Brahman, realizes something more. He realizes that the steps are made of the same materials as the roof: bricks, lime, and brick dust. That which is realized intuitively as Brahman through the eliminating process of neti neti, not this, not this, is then found to have become the universe and all its living beings. This is the systematic process of discrimination. Vivekananda explains vijnana in another more subjective way. He says, absolute existence, absolute knowledge, and absolute blessedness are not qualities of the soul, but the essence. There is no difference between them and the soul, and the three are one. We see the one thing in three different aspects. They are beyond all relative knowledge. That eternal knowledge of the self, percolating through the brain of man, becomes the intuition, reason, and so on, he says. Its manifestation varies according to the medium through which it shines. In other words, the source of our individual knowledge is in essence all-knowingness, but its manifestation varies according to the medium through which it shines. It becomes distorted and confused when percolating through our human mind. Therefore, we all see human bodies, and hopefully human minds we are able to interact with. So then what is the difference between the jnana and the vijnana states? The jnani affirms the snake and the rope example. The snake is Maya, this phantom universe. In other words, the jnani sees all of this as a phantom universe. The rope is Brahman, the underlying reality. It's the old snake and the rope example of seeing what you think is a snake in the rope when in actuality it is Brahman. But you only see the snake, this Maya. The Brahmagyani sees the snake at rest. He or she never sees matter. They see the shadow of this world, and behind the shadow is Brahman. The Vijnani affirms the snake wriggling analogy. He or she says God is all. The snake wriggling is, we are seeing Maya as Shakti, the power of Brahman. Without fire, Brahman, there is no burning power. The Vijnani sees snake in motion, sees matter as a manifestation, a vibration of consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna explains Vijnana. What is Vijnana? It is knowing God in a special way. The awareness and conviction that fire exists in wood is jnana, knowledge. But to cook rice on that fire, eat the rice, and get nourishment from it is vijnana. To know by one's inner experience that God exists is jnana. But to talk to him, to enjoy him as a child, as a friend, as the master, as one's beloved, is vijnana. The realization that God alone has become the universe and all living beings is Vijnana. He goes on. Vijnana means knowledge with a greater fullness. He says some have heard of milk, some have seen milk, and some have drunk milk. He who has merely heard of it is ignorant. He who has seen it is a jnani, but he who has drunk it has Vijnana. That is to say, a fuller knowledge of it. After having the vision of God, one talks to him as if he were an intimate relative. That is Vijnana. Explained in another way, Sri Ramakrishna lived in Bhavamukha, the state he moved from the Nitya, the absolute, to the Lila, the relative. From the absolute non-dual to seeing this world and its living beings as the divine play. Reading his life is really an incredible experience. It's something you don't read once, you read many times, and each time you get a deeper meaning of what it is he is experiencing and what it is he is teaching. He says, he alone who after reaching the Nitya, the absolute, can dwell in the Lila, the relative, and again climb from the Lila to the Nitya, has ripe knowledge and devotion. Sages like Narada cherished love of God after attaining the knowledge of Brahman. This is called Vijnana. So we see that a bhakta can also become a Vijnani. Sri Ramakrishna tells us, a bhakta also attains the knowledge of oneness. He sees that nothing exists but God. He does not regard the world as a dream, but says that it is God himself who has become everything. And then he gives the example. In a wax garden, you may see various objects, but everything is made of wax. Sri Ramakrishna goes on, it is God himself who has become all this. It seems to me that men and other living beings are made of leather, and that it is God himself who, dwelling inside these leather cases, moves the hands, the feet, the heads. I had a similar vision once before when I saw houses, gardens, roads, men, cattle, all made of one substance. It was as if they were all made of wax. You see, he's very descriptive, giving us the example of what it feels like to see this world as an illumined being, and in his case, as the avatar. In this state of vijnana, sometimes bereft of body consciousness, Sri Ramakrishna would sometimes regard himself as one with Brahman. Sometimes conscious of the dual world, he would regard himself as God's devotee, servant, or child. In order to enable Sri Ramakrishna to work for the welfare of humanity, the Divine Mother kept within him a trace of ego, the ego of knowledge, the ego of devotion, the ego of a child, the ego of a servant. And this ego, consumed by the fire of the knowledge of Brahman, was an appearance only, like a burnt string. Sri Ramakrishna often referred to this ego as the ripe ego, as opposed to the ego of a bound soul, which he described as the unripe ego. So then, to summarize, the ordinary person sees distinct objects, but the Vijnani sees no distinct forms, but everything as wax. He sees the reality of Brahman as all forms, not in all forms. The Jnani, however, sees all people as so many glass houses with the light within. But the glass house is something to be negated. It is not real. The Vijnani sees people as glass houses, but even the glass house is an appearance of light. Totapuri, the Jnani, he was Sri Ramakrishna's guru, whereas Sri Ramakrishna was the Vijnani. He experienced that state higher than his guru, Totapuri. Totapuri, after Nirvikalpa Samadhi, saw the subtle duality, this, Brahman, as opposed to that, the world. For Sri Ramakrishna, there was no more duality. Even when he saw the world, the Vijnani sees form as Brahman. He sees no distinction between the steps to the roof and the roof. When he sees the world, Shakti is there in charge. It is like the snake that is wriggling. Form itself is a pulsation of consciousness. So how does the Vijnani move through the world, we might ask? The Jnani and the Vijnani see everything different from us. They do nothing. The sense of I-ness doesn't exist. To them, nothing is happening. Actions proceed. Everything happens by the will of God. On the other hand, Sri Ramakrishna's Vijnana experience do not make the world real. That's very important to remember this. Interestingly, at the end of his life, he asks, why do I see everything as a dream? Possibly meaning that that is the final and highest expression. That is the highest experience. At one time, I asked Swami Swahananda, the founder of this center, and he was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda, what is the higher experience, Jnana or Vijnana? And he answered, Jnana, oneness, is the highest experience because it is based on oneness. But Vijnana is the higher achievement. It's very interesting. Usually that higher achievement comes to these great souls, the avatars, the Ishvarakotis, the disciples, the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Very, very, very exceptional sadhakas. For us, These Jnana Yoga precepts proudly form the pillar for our spiritual lives, even if we cannot follow them or follow them only meagerly. Perhaps the most practical and reassuring advice we can take from this uncompromising path of jnana, which comes from Vivekananda himself, who said, "The whole life is a succession of dreams. My ambition is to become a conscious dreamer. That is all." Of course, to be a conscious dreamer is nothing less than to be a Brahmagyani. And now we are going to end with a guided meditation, one that Vivekananda gave in his Raja Yoga classes. It's a meditation on unity, so that we can try to absorb these truths, some of these truths that we've been hearing. Let's begin with 3 deep breaths, eyes closed, posture straight, feet firmly planted on the ground. Everything we experienced is based on the background fact of unity. Unity is within every experience and perception. Everything is a vibration, a wave in the ocean of unity. We can feel this here and now. Try to sit as firm as a rock. Feel nothing can move you. Breathe in, breathe out. Mentally repeating, "May all beings realize what is good." Hold the head and shoulders and the hips in a straight line, keeping the spinal column free. All action is along it, and it must not be impaired. Feel your body as an instrument rather than an obstacle to meditation. Know it to be pure, perfect, full of light. Now mentally scan your body. Begin with your toes and think of each part of your body as pure and perfect. Picture it so in your mind, touching each part if you prefer to do so. Pass upward bit by bit until you reach the head. Think of each part of the body as perfect, lacking nothing. Scan your body for tension and send the light of awareness there so harmony returns. Feel your body as a harmonious system of energy. Don't superimpose solidity. Concentrate on any bodily sensation as being in the field of energy, such as your feet on the floor, your hands touching. Feel those points of contact as weightless floating. Then think of the whole as perfect, an instrument to enable you to attain truth, the vessel in which you are to cross the ocean and reach the shores of eternal truth. When this has been done, breathe in deeply and exhale completely. Take 4 such breaths, then breathe naturally. Feel the all-pervading unity in every thought, perception, and in your awareness of people and things in the room around you. Let every thought be dissolved in the vibratory ocean of unity. Feel how the mind becomes formless, pervading everything. When the mind becomes calm, the mind becomes formless. We can then feel how the body floats within the sense of unity, within the mind and without. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace.